So you're in that.
Breast cancer is overwhelming, but I purchased a phone my way. I did all I could to prevent recurrence. Verzenio reduces the risk of recurrence in HR positive HER2 negative.
Oh, you did. No. Looks like it's gonna yellow. A little bit, yeah. So it's the. Oh, really? Yeah. I blame, well, I think Laura brought it to Europe, and she's got it. From Europe. Yeah. No, I can't see it. Oh, really? Yeah, really. Yeah.
who is the Deputy of Constituents Engagement. She is actually from Holly Mitchell's office, so if you have any questions regarding her, you can definitely ask her direct. I spoke with Tiffany, and I guess on October 26th, they're going to have a Halloween trunk or treat here in the parking lot between the hours of 5 and 8. Apparently, a lot of people will be parked in the parking lot and decorate their cars, and the kids will be able to come up and do their trick or treating. And just a few safety notice, basically, because a lot of costumes are dark in color. If you carry one of those glow sticks or flashlights, because sometimes you don't want the car to see you when it's too late if you're crossing. Because definitely with the kids, they get excited, especially after about 5 candy bars. They start definitely playing tag and what have you, and they hate to have an incident happening. So also to keep on tabs, I'm sure you've heard of the water restoration program that they're having here. If not, what they're going to be doing is a project. They're going to be putting holding tanks that's going to recycle the water, apparently to put back out into the storm drain. But apparently it collects all the pollutants from going out into the ocean. So that's going to be probably a year project, but on November 8th, between 5 and 8, between 6 and 8, thank you, 6 and 8, they'll be having a representative from here, and basically the ones that are actually doing the project. So people are wondering, are they going to close the entire park down? Are they going to be having large trucks pulling in and out with dirt, and how they're going to control all the dust and such? So that'll be like the hometown meeting set aside for that information. So we'll get that out to everybody before the date. And so we're coming up on Christmas. So we're going to be having the Santa Claus sleigh is coming back to the village on the 11th, 12th, and 13th. So that's always exciting. And we do have a toy drive. So any unwrapped gift, any value, or it's appreciated by a child that may not have received a Christmas present. So it's getting larger every year, and it's becoming very successful, and a lot of happy children for sure. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Marilyn, who is our main person on our committee to, what's that? Oh, I can't see it. Anyways, to go over what our projects, what we are coming up with, and what we're actually seeing at this point. You don't need a mic?
I think you guys heard me well last time, right? Okay. So here is your underlining volunteer committee members. Kevin, Carlos, Mike, myself, Brandy, and Jerry, who's just had knee surgery. So send good thoughts out to Jerry because he's healing from that knee surgery. This is the team that works hard to try and get issues brought before the county and work with county officials. So this is us. Where would you like me to do this, Mike? Sorry.
Would be me without having.
Okay, well, yeah. So we're just showing you how good we are on our feet to fix technology. That is what we also do as well. Oh, the internet? Tiffany, that's you. Okay, we're starting over. So my name is Marilyn. Welcome. This is our volunteer committee here, working real time. We're also doing this on Zoom because we actually found that there are some people who cannot attend the meeting. So it allows people to attend on Zoom. So that is something new we've started a couple meetings ago. Okay, so here are some of our projects that we're working on. There have been some commercial vehicles that have been parked on Prairie Access Road from 154th to the liquor store. So Kevin's been working with the sheriffs to let them know about that. It's sometimes they're parked on the wrong side of the road, and we're working on that. The homeless, I think we all know we have an issue with on the corner, especially in the parking lot over here on Manhattan and Prairie. Carlos just spoke to an organization called PAC, who apparently does outreach for the homeless. Hopefully we're going to get some sheriff support. It's sort of an ongoing issue. Last time we were incredibly successful with one situation. By the time we got out of the meeting, the person was gone, but now they've come back, and they've come back with friends. So know that we continue to work it. However, together we are better and stronger. So it's super important for you guys to also be giving complaints to the county offices. We cannot, our little group, be the only voice in the community. The more people who complain, the better off we are. The sheriff told me last time that if we had more people complaining, we would have a better chance of getting more patrol. So that just tells you the more voices we have, the better off we're going to be. So we are working on the homeless situation as best we can, as 6 people. The food vendor situation has expanded, and we're going to have the Department of Economic Opportunity here tonight. You saw Daniel, hello Daniel, right? In April, so he is back to give us some more information, and Ara has been really helpful in getting them here, so thank you for that. Next, am I doing it or are you? Okay. On the back of your agenda that was given to you at your homes and also tonight, these are the phone numbers that were supplied by DEO, the Department of Economic Opportunity, for you to make any complaints you have. So if you have a problem with the street vendors that are currently happening on Prairie, Manhattan Beach Boulevard, Crenshaw, Marine, these are the people that you need to call. And that is who DEO has given to us. And if there's any update to that, I'm confident they'll give it to us tonight. Next. Department of Public Works. At the last meeting, we spoke to the Department of Public Works about all the duck waste that is in the park. And it's a we think it's an issue, right? You can't walk through the park without having your shoes contaminated, and there's just so much duck waste all over. So the Department of Public Works is looking into it because they don't know if it's a county issue or a state issue. So they're trying to determine if those geese and ducks are wild or not. And depending on how they determine that will depend if the county actually works on it or the state. So that's where we are with that. Universal Waste Systems, they were here last time, the people who do the trash, and they actually are working to update their website to have the bulky pickup because you can't find where that is if you have bulky items. And with the end of the year, some people like to purge for the new year. So if you have any bulky items that you need, here's an email address, or you can call the UWS people. And also, I just put on there the Christmas collection of trees, December 26th through January 16th, just so you know. Okay, Measure M. We met in June with the Department of Public Works regarding Marine and, is it Roosevelt School that's on Yukon? That area right there, and just Marine in general, that it's a hazard for some of the kids who cross, some of the people who cross jaywalking. So the Measure M people are doing a 5-year project where they are upgrading traffic patterns, putting maybe some meridians in the road, looking at how traffic pedestrians work in the area. So I talked to them this week, and they're still working on their survey. They're going to be talking to the school, looking at how traffic is on the street, talking to the sheriff to see how many accidents there are there. So that's just an ongoing project. And then we also asked them at that meeting, hey, can you do beautification like we have done on Prairie and Manhattan Beach Boulevard with the fence, with the plants, sort of to secure the El Camino Village area, to also make it look a little nicer, and also to prevent some of the jaywalking that happens. And we look at it as more of a safety issue if we have the fencing there. So we are working on that. So that's, these are projects that are going to be a while. The one project that we did successfully get is the Department of Public Works is going to be putting a speed bump on Doty. Right now, they're finishing up a survey that they did The traffic survey, apparently they've been working on this for 10 years, according to Kevin. I'd like to say that we got it this year. But we got it done this year. But anyways, so they're gonna be putting in a speed bump. I don't know when it's going to be. I spoke to Jay and he said that probably really realistically, early 2024. No. So what they're doing is they've done the traffic survey on Doty from 154th to Manhattan Beach Boulevard. He is going to extend it to Marine, that traffic study. He's also going to do Lamoli, Cerise, Yukon, and they're gonna go Manhattan Beach Boulevard to Marine. I just spoke to him yesterday about it. So those streets are gonna be looked at as well for potential speed bumps. Because, you know, a lot of people are complaining about.
Don't forget 154th to Prairie.
154th to Prairie, I'll mention it, remind me.
Yeah, they come down there and they leave sparks coming off and go through those ditches.
That's true. Okay, good to know, remind me of that. He's my neighbor, so he can tell me. Okay, so yeah, so we feel really accomplished in at least getting one speed bump. We feel like it's progress because it's opened the county to the possibility of getting more. So that's a big win for us, we think. Next. Property, okay, last meeting we talked about there's some properties in El Camino Village that are maybe a little lacking in upkeep, and it's a bit of an eyesore. It probably takes down the values of our home. And so if you know of any property like that, please email the El Camino Village group email address and let us know. We think we have someone at the county who will take the information down, reach out to the residents to see what can be done about that. So if you know of anyone, you have any concerns in your area, please use that email address. If you see any graffiti, clean up dial 311 and you'll have them come out and clean that up. So just mentioning that. Sorry?
So they're pretty responsive.
Yeah. We had some on this building and they took care of it right away. Next. Alondra Park. So Kevin talked about the November 8th meeting. It is going to be with the person who got the contract from the LA County. Super important for you to come. Bring your neighbors. If you brought 6 people on your street, it would probably be a great thing. Because we need to get all of our questions asked about what is gonna happen when the park is shut down. How are they gonna handle all the different aspects of traffic, noise, dust? So if you come, you can have your questions answered, and that will be the best way. We have had the Department of Public Works come previously to give us presentations, but they never really knew the answers to some of the questions that you all had asked. So if you come to the meeting, you will get your questions answered by the people who are actually doing the work. So the meeting is November the 8th from 5 to 8. It will be in this room.
I thought it was 6.
I'm sorry, 6 to 8. 6 to 8. I changed my presentation, but it didn't get updated, so no worries. And Jane.
Could you go back to the ECVCWA Gmail?
Yes.
I just want to take a photo of it.
Sure. I can give it to you after if you want to. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I think I have a couple more things.
Yeah, if you can't get it, that's okay. I wrote it down, but I didn't figure it out. Yep, there we go.
Yeah. ECVLACO@gmail.com.
Got it.
What we're really trying to do is prevent everyone from just going to Kevin, because to be quite candid, it's really hard for Kevin to handle the amount of people who come to him. In all fairness, we as a committee can look at it in a bigger picture rather than Kevin having to deal with it all the time. So we're trying to set up our system so that we have just a general email address so that we can help you all and help Kevin not be so inundated.
And I want to take this moment to thank Meredith and Mike for bringing me up to 2021.
Yeah.
All this is great.
So the December, I'll be tying it up really quick. I didn't want to spend a lot of time. The last time Emo told me I talked too fast, so I'm trying to slow it down. The Santa Sleigh is coming. It's going to be coming December 11, 12, and 13 through the El Camino Village area. So get your kids ready. Stay tuned for that. Kevin and his team do a fantastic job getting Santa on the sleigh. And I would venture to say, if anyone wanted to help you put that together, help would be greatly appreciated, because it's a big deal. He has to build the sleigh, and donations are appreciated. The toy drive, yes. Yeah. Can you send out, I have a really hard time hearing, sorry.
Hi, just a quick comment about the truck rate today.
Yes.
Mark Twain, which is the school that serves Camino Village, is having a Halloween event that they as well. Just, so they were maybe more after the hour.
Oh, thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, okay, so
Yeah.
either or. Twice as much candy. Go,
Have a walk down Jody to here, yeah, just have a trail. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to help Kevin, that would be greatly
Donations
appreciated.
are really.
The donation, the toy drive, there are a lot of families struggling, so it would be great to be able to have a great show of donations for that.
Because we candy canes, they've gone up each year. Also just lights, decoration, lights, a lot of stuff that goes into it. So.
We all love it when it comes down the street. We don't think how much it costs and how much time it takes to do it. But I'm just letting you know it's a substantial amount.
Where do you take these donations? I mean,
Usually, we're going to be doing a demo, or you go.
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Next
next week in 2023, we're gonna have a Venmo little QR code for you coming to the
okay,
next
but
meeting.
this year,
Yeah.
This year, Kevin. We'll do the old school way, check. Yeah.
Usually on the sleigh, we have on 4 corners, we have donation boxes.
Yeah.
And people usually, will slip their money in there, or just go up to one of the L's and say, I'd like this.
Yeah, and we accept large bills. We don't just take large bills. No problem with that.
Cards, we have an ATM.
Yeah. Yeah, large bills are accepted and appreciated.
Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Santa Claus.
Okay, I'm losing you guys. I'm not even the presenter. Yeah.
Is any of this information
So here's what happens in the meetings. We're having the meetings, we're putting them on Zoom, there are recordings. If you have chosen to sign up for our email list, you will get the links to the meetings. We have all the past meetings that are on Zoom, on YouTube that you have access to, so all this information is there.
As well as the presentations themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes watching all YouTube takes too long.
Yeah.
You
Right.
Go browse.
You can
As
also
all
use
three
your phone.
things, basically,
Take
all.
pictures.
Yeah, you can take pictures as well.
Yeah, I apologize, the projector's a little blurry.
But we do have this available to people. That's why we're really trying to step up our communication. We're trying to step up everyone giving us their email addresses. If you have people in your neighborhood that aren't on our email address, have them email us and get on the list because we're going to put information out that way.
Yeah, we're not gonna scam you, if you give us our.
No, we don't sell your information.
But if you wanna sell your house,
Okay, next.
Marilyn?
The next,
Marilyn?
oh, I'm sorry, yes,
You
Jane.
said to.
Oh, yes, so Jane, meet Jane.
Hi.
Jane has an idea to pass along to you all to see if you're interested in doing it and being a part of this. So, hello, Jane.
Hello, everybody. I'll hurry up.
We'll be fast.
I'm Jane. I've lived in El Camino Village for over 20 years, for about 20 years. We've raised our kids here. We homeschooled our family. Some of you know me. And for years, I've gone to Candy Cane Lane in Torrance to do the drive-through lights. And I always thought our neighborhood's just as awesome as their neighborhood. And I would love it if we could really take some of our own pride and get in there with the lights this year and maybe even have a contest, the best street, or I'm open to ideas. But it would be so cool for us to be the people with our hot chocolate stand or for $1 have our kids going out there and people walking through the neighborhood, because not only will it increase our property value, but it'll make more people want to be a part of, you get this sense of community and they'll see how amazing our neighborhood is, because we have an amazing neighborhood. And so I know there's the east of the canal,
East and west.
and then there's the west side. I am on the west side
East
of
side.
Holly Avenue.
Well, I'm sorry, west.
Yeah, so west side. So I'm thinking just the west side because I can only control so much, but I will put a sheet of paper back there, and you can sign up. I can leave you also my email address. But why don't I, and if people need help, because Kevin and I talked about some people who might not have the physical ability to put lights up or something, we're open to being able to help as a community to be festive that way too. But we can do better than we might not be able to do better than Candy Cane Lane this year, but I'm telling you, next year, we can blow doors. And I'm not trying to be them, I'm trying to be us, okay? So what do you guys think? Is anybody interested in that?
So Jane is our leader in that. She's joined our committee on the Christmas committee. So,
yes. Now, how about the phone number? Is that a safe thing to leave here?
Yeah, go
or-
ahead, if you want me to leave your email, or have a sign-up sheet for you.
Okay, I'll leave my email.
Yeah.
Little wisdom given to me. I will leave you my
For
email.
those who
And
can you guys hear me?
If you want me to contact you, please write your email or name, and name and phone number, and I guess that's about it.
yeah, we can also post it on the Facebook group as well. Hello, Randy. Randy's listening. So Randy can post it on the Facebook group so we can put, how to contact you, maybe if we're on there.
And I will tell you right now, my email is simple. It's apple2butterfly@gmail.com.
Is it number 2 or 2?
It's the number 2.
Yeah,
Apple the fruit, 2 butterfly. I'm Jane. Let's do something different this year. Let's showcase our
Love that.
Yeah.
I would highly suggest and invite all to get 5 or 6 new neighbors coming. Let's get more people involved in the community, make it even a better place than what it is now. And I think, I pull my neighbors all the time. Come on, come to the meeting. So, see who you can get to come that hasn't come before, and let's make this even a greater place to live than what we already have right now. Because you guys who have been here a long time have made this a great community, and we've only been here 7 years, and we're grateful for what you've created, and I think we can create more. We're getting a lot of young families in here, and it would be really fun to really up our level of community. So that's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I really appreciate Marilyn and all her information that she provided with us. And, definitely, even letting people know we're doing Zoom now, because a lot of them have kids that are at home, they can't attend, or they're in a age category where getting out at night, especially it's gonna start getting dark early, might be a challenge for them. So, any way we can start promoting, I mean, it's great to see that we are having like 60 people more, the post-pandemic is starting to really be positive for our neighborhood. So with that, I'd like to introduce our Sheriff's Department with Lieutenant Patello, who is our current acting captain at this point. So, please welcome him.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see familiar faces. And for those that don't know me, I'm Monica Patello, the acting captain at South LA. So a couple of things to touch on briefly, and then I'll field any questions you may have, which I'm sure you may. So, our department has faced a couple of challenges in the last 3 weeks or so. We had a deputy that was tragically killed in the line of duty up north, and we held services for him last Thursday. And so it was a very solemn moment for me as the temporary unit commander of the station to go. And I will say, to be frank, I tend to avoid funerals. I don't know about everyone here, but I find them very pressing. But when you have a deputy that was killed in such a way that he was, you find it in your heart to go and honor his memory and his service. And I hadn't been to one in 18 years for a deputy that happened last time in Lakewood for us, or for me. Thank you. And so, that being said, we had another incident happen with 2 deputies being hurt as a result of our mobile range having an accident, and they were seriously injured. So we've kind of been going through our time here with our own department, just kind of recovering and experiencing something else. But right now, our department is kind of mobilizing in a state of alert regarding the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, coinciding with Lebanon now joining into the fray. We're on alert, and tomorrow, in a neighboring jurisdiction for the city of Lawndale, we will be having additional units You're going to be seeing additional units tomorrow and maybe in the next couple of days in our area. They're going to be there to provide additional visibility and presence, kind of responding to all of the critical facilities within South Los Angeles Station's jurisdiction. So as you know, those critical facilities for us will be fire stations, hospitals, we'll go by schools, we're going to go by any places of worship that are faith-based in the Jewish community. I believe we have one in Lawndale, we have one in Lenox, we have one in the city, in a Vermont community. So just beware, heads up on that. We are kind of mobilizing for a state. We are in a state of alert. We do have deputies and station personnel. I was just discussing with the watch commander that are mobilizing to go elsewhere within our jurisdiction to monitor events there. So just a heads up, tomorrow is a particular day for events. Of course, it's Friday the 13th for those that are superstitious. But you also have this call for jihad across the world. So I say please be careful and just monitor your surroundings and just be mindful as you go out tomorrow on your everyday travels for work, home, and other leisure activities. Just be mindful. Let's see. So to go over what's going on for El Camino Village. We've had an increase in street robberies happening in the El Camino Village area. It went up from 1 to 4, but I would say we tend to have this problem right now going on in our jurisdiction with juveniles, especially after school between 4 and 8 p.m. Juveniles are out and they're tending to steal from other kids. So I would just maybe talk about that with your kids if you haven't already, just to be mindful not to be distracted. Typically, if you have teens or kids, they like wearing their AirPods in, and when they do that, they're not paying attention, so their phone is out. And these are really kind of crimes of opportunity happening around your area, so please be mindful of that. I'm starting a new crime saturation car for our station. So we're going to be having 2 deputies going out to our areas, including El Camino Village, to kind of hotspot some of the issues. So then when I identify issues, I'll be directing these deputies kind of in a concentrated way to not only up top, which is like the Vermont West Athens communities, but also here to assist us with some of our hotspots in terms of crime. Across the board, we have been seeing an increase in stolen vehicles. Please make sure keep your vehicle secure if you can. There's no particular make or model. It's across the board within our jurisdiction, particularly up in the Vermont area, but I just warn and caution everyone just to be mindful of that. Keep your doors locked and secure. If you have burglary alarms, do not forget to activate them. And just be careful at night. That's kind of where you're seeing the biggest hit. Was there any questions that I could? Sorry.
I just wanted to piggyback off that the TikTok thing, Kias are the big target right now, and they're so easy to break into. And I've only heard a few people that own Kias in the village that it takes less than 30 seconds with a UBS or whatever, USB. How can TikTok somehow be responsible for showing people how to steal cars?
I mean, you could be, it's not even just TikTok, it's YouTube. You know, it's everywhere, it's pretty prevalent. So when I hear stuff like that, I think, well, it's interesting you say that, because I don't even think it's Kia. It's like in my experience with what's going on up top in a different community, it's Mercedes. So I'm seeing Mercedes stolen left and right, and so I would say, that's why I say there's not necessarily a particular model. I think it's being mindful of it all. If you have a garage, secure it. If you have another means of securing a vehicle besides a burglary alarm, using the old-fashioned club is another way that deters people. It's about deterrent at this point, because if they're able to get into the car so quickly, they might struggle with having an additional club on there. It's just adding that level of protection is what I would recommend. And sir, how can I?
What can you tell us about the person they found dead out in the park today?
Well, it may have been a homeless,
What's a homeless person
unhoused.
they found dead?
So very often those are not considered, they're considered people that have died, but not necessarily by suspicious causes. Many times they'll hear of an overdose or other natural causes because they're out and they're suffering from other forms of medical conditions. So there's nothing necessarily alarming about that person's death that was, it would be deemed a homicide of a suspicious nature. Usually when those happen, I'll get wind of it pretty quickly. We do have some incidents of crime occurring, not in El Camino, but elsewhere, where we have what they call Hood Day, for those that don't know, and we do have some gang activity up there going on right now, but not for El Camino Village. You guys are okay. But in terms of what I'm monitoring, in terms of aggravated assaults and homicides that are going up, it's not here. That to me is what they call just a person dead by other means, where we're not necessarily concerned about foul play.
Did they clarify that, but did the person died, did they clarify the person has died from whatever, or
yes,
it wasn't?
Yes, it would be unknown cause. So they get transported to the coroner's office if we can't find a next of kin, and then they'll determine a cause of death. If there's no immediate, we immediately go out there to survey, and if we don't detect foul play, and if we talk to individuals that are out there that are with this person, very often they're drug related.
Song isn't it? Huh? Yeah, Eric, sorry.
Lieutenant Mattel, thanks for coming back. The last time it was a spirited discussion here about the red curve. Is your org chart, are you responsible for Lawndale also?
Yes.
The question about Lawndale, because this incident happened 1.1 mile from here,
yes.
So it easily could affect us. Last week or the week before, there were 2 shootings on the same street by William Green Elementary, and then last week or over the weekend, that school got marked up really, really badly with the graffiti. What's the cause of that? And that's a good segue from the last question. You start talking about gang activity. What's your gang intelligence telling you that we could hear?
Well, it's not really, I know it's close in terms of Lawndale, which is literally right over there, but it is gang activity occurring in Lawndale. We have 2 gangs that are primarily they're kind of combating each other. It's kind of a gang territory war right now. It's kind of taken a dip, but we know that we have detectives that are working to solve some of the shootings that have happened. And we thought we had a good lead on one of the shootings that happened at Jane Addams Park. It didn't materialize. We thought we had a good identity as to the shooter. Right now, all that I can say is that it's ongoing, active criminal investigations. We do have leads that we're pursuing. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to add, well, Lawndale's a different situation because it's a contracted city for us. So I've been talking with our city officials there to encourage them to add more deputies to the field to allow us to increase in visibility and saturation to kind of create that downward effect. But the fact that I think our detectives have been on it has also caused like a decrease because they know that we're out there looking for these previous shooters. So that's what that tells me. When you see the graffiti, that typically means they're trying to claim that area. It'll get crossed off, and then the other gang or by the moniker will then put their moniker on top of that or next to. So that's what that tells me, which is consistent with what we've been hearing. At one point, we knew it was one particular gang nearby, and now it's these 2 others. So they tend, again, to be youngsters. They tend to be juveniles. That's what we're seeing a lot of. A lot of that is working with the city officials and their outreach programs to try to talk to these kids and try to make some inroads in that way. But we're actively working them. I know that my detectives that we have are excellent. They're well familiar with the area, and I'm confident that we're going to come to a pretty expedient resolution regarding the identity of the shooters.
Thank you.
Okay, Lieutenant, I wanted to say thank you for your service, and I'm really sorry for your loss. Deeply, my mom worked for the force, so, I know it's not an easy job. You mentioned, 2 things that I wanted to ask. One, sometimes late at night, we hear these really loud cars coming down our cul-de-sac, almost like they're waiting for trouble or looking for trouble, and my younger sons kind of always get up and go to the window to see if something's about to pop off, So I'm not sure what to do in that case, if I should just be taking down the make of the car. I also stay in. And then the second thing, you said something about a jihad and I don't know exactly how that's supposed to be. I walk at night, sometimes with the dog. I just want to make sure it's not stupid. You know?
So if you've been monitoring like the news, I'm sure many of you do. I have. It means holy war.
Right.
So they're called upon to potentially attack places of faith that are Jewish based. But sometimes, depending on the nature of the organization or those that are part of different factions, they be extremists. So they may not just focus solely on a faith-based facility. They can decide that it's holy war against infidels in general. And as you know, we're kind of lumped into that group, rightly or wrongly. So that just means we have to monitor potential threats for our area. That's what I mean by that. Like, we're mobilizing with the understanding that there could be unrest tomorrow on a whole host of fronts within LA County. So when I ask people to be mindful, it's like, if you pick tomorrow, try not to pick big places where there's a lot of people, and it's just like, tomorrow might be Netflix day.
And then the car, the loud car.
So as to the loud cars, those get kind of tricky, because a couple of things I'll tell you realistically. By the time we get there, they're gone. So what we can do is keep checking for the vicinity. So if you can identify the car, is what you mentioned earlier, it's perfect. Just tell me, it's going to be a white Kia, it's a black, I think it's a Tesla, or I think it's a four-door sedan with, this really loud exhaust, and I saw 2 people in it. We can at least continue to check the area to see if we can find the cars. Very often, some of these people are hanging around, being silly, and then they speed off and go somewhere else.
And please, my son has a loud car, so I just want to make sure nobody goes out.
No, and that's could happen. Trust me, that can happen, right? Because if we're there and say, weird circumstances happen. Like, we're looking for a car with a loud exhaust and it's black. That's all we know. So we're kind of looking around for a black car, and sure enough, if your son has a black car with loud exhaust, we're like, oh, that might be the guy. So that does happen quite often. So, obviously the better type, make, and model of the car that you could give, the better off we'll be.
I'm one of the people somebody in your group targeted for not having a permit on my car. I finally got that part taken care of, and there's like about 6 of us on our block that were all residents and all. Yeah, but anyway, about parking, okay? I sent away, and the guy said he was going to send it to me an email, an application, but I could not get it to print. And when I talked to the folks in Lawndale, they said he should have sent me a copy. I did get an application from Lawndale, but it's not current. Will they still accept the non-current?
When we're done, can I just see it offline, and we can talk about who you talk to, and then I can give you some guidance.
Okay.
Good evening, ma'am. Quick question for you. Do you guys have like a senior lead officer or a liaison that's assigned to El Camino Village that we can contact for like quality of life issues, things?
That's kind of what I was talking about earlier. So like my idea, no, we don't. To be short, it's really sort of a line, like if somebody has an issue about quality of life, my advice has always been we call the station and we can try to handle if there's some outreach that we need to defer, we identify homeless individuals or in camp somewhere, then we try to do some outreach first because we're required to do so for our protocol. But no, typically when I come to these meetings, I start hearing about particular issues and I try to address them to our line staff. Ultimately, the watch sergeant and the watch commander of the station, if you call, we try to do our best to make sure we send the units out there to handle it accordingly. But no, we don't have a senior, quote unquote, liaison. But that's kind of what I was hoping to do with this car that I'm creating for November, is make it a dual function car where I have them do high visibility and crime saturation for us in hotspots, but also be able to adjust and handle quality of life issues for El Camino Village and other communities in the unincorporated area that don't really have it's us, with our limited resource. So if I can use these 2 deputies to kind of hotspot some of it, they're going to be busy. But that's my intention, and it will be to a point where I have them identified with the team leader whom I've already picked, who's going to handle issues like that. So very soon, I'll have the name of that individual. The team leader is going to be Deputy Ray Lopez, and then I'm picking the 2 deputies in the next 2.5 weeks from a list of candidates that have wished to apply. So that's how we're looking to evolve this into something where I can give you like, hey, next time they're gonna be here and you'll get to meet them, and that's my intention.
Second question, I'm sorry. Is there a place like a website that we can go to for like crime trends or like suspect information on any certain crimes in this area?
I usually provide them during the Civilian Advisory Committee meeting that we do, and then I bring them every time I come here. Usually when I send a designee, if it's the watch commander, Lieutenant Osborne's watch commander, he's back there tonight, he thought he could hide. I'll usually have them come with the statistics, so we talk about crime trends. But no, there's really not a website. I know that I give them to them online. If you ask me to can forward the link to you, that might be a more efficient way to do it.
I'll just say, we've got like 5 more minutes, so, but Rodney's been having his hand up for.
Yeah, okay, we're like,
Hello, everybody. Hi, Lieutenant. Thank you for your service. Sorry for the loss of your department, and thank you for your presence tonight. I noticed that on your crime reports, the top line item, each page or each bucket is homicide. I want to play out a scenario for you really quickly.
Sure.
If I am a patron of a food truck that does not have a food permit and does not have a public health permit, and I get poisoned and die from eating that food from that truck that doesn't have a public health permit, would that be considered homicide?
No. It would be considered, I mean, it's a homicide because it's the death of a human, but it's not homicide by foul play where it's a murder, an intentional act, a murder. So that's a negligent, it'd be a negligent homicide that could rise to the level of criminal culpability should that be pursued in some way. But at that moment, when somebody is, to be perfectly frank, someone's going to go home and get really, really sick, and then eventually they're going to go to the hospital, and then some family member is going to say he died because of that food truck food, and then that's going to be a wrongful death civil matter. So that's really and realistically how it would play out. And I know what you're saying. I'm going to get that subtext in a minute. I know we have them here to talk about that because that's been an issue, and we're going to get there.
Yeah, one more. Oh, did you want?
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really great to hear about the extra car coming along, and we're really excited to hear about that and meet the people who will be riding around and helping us out. So that kind of segues into, I don't know if you're aware of the uptick in the homeless in the parking lot here.
So we're just talking about it.
Okay, yeah. I just want to make sure you're aware. It's pretty severe, and it seems like every day there's another one or two. Not sure what's happening.
You mean they're coming, are they in cars or are they just hanging out?
They're in cars and tents and just laying on the ground
They have
sometimes.
children in one of them. There were 7 of them at 5:45 Monday morning in the parking lot park.
So I'll reach out to the sergeant that
Sergeant Williams, is he still?
No, it's not Sergeant Williams anymore. For Parks Bureau Sergeant for LASD for our department. I remember reaching out about this because he left, and then there was a different sergeant by the name of McAllister, and it's been switching. But what I'm going to do anyway, independent of who that sergeant is, I'm going to let him know. But I'm also, his name is Sergeant Concha.
Okay, good.
And I'm going to reach out to him on an email and call him, and then I'll reach out to our host team to do outreach. Because what will happen is, since we have protocol in place now with homeless and encampments, we can't just like, we can maybe here because there's limited access dawn to dusk and that kind of thing. So I'll reach out to Sergeant Concha and our host team to start that protocol, especially if it's the same people. Because with this coming up with your stormwater project, that's going to be an issue, no doubt.
Time for one more, because we want to make sure the food vendors get a fix on it.
I got to make a note so I don't forget.
Yes, thank you for your presence here tonight. Excuse me. And in light of your warning about possible unrest in the streets and.
Well, it's not streets, like,
Well, I heard what you said.
I don't want to cause panic, right? There's specific areas.
But, point taken. Does the substation over here process CCWs or LTC?
No, there's a whole different process on that now. The stations do not accept them, nor do we at South LA. If you go onto lasd.org and click on the sections for.
I'm sorry, LA what?
LASD online.
Or LA Sheriff.
It tells you the process for submitting for a CCW. But the whole process has changed and we don't handle them anymore at our level.
What's a CCW?
A carrying concealed weapon permit?
Okay.
If anybody has any more questions, write them down. There's cards back there. And we'll
Okay,
get you
sorry.
an answer, put your email on there. and we'll get back to you.
I wish we had more time, but we definitely want, we've been trying to get the food vendors back out for the Department of Equal Opportunity. And, I want to at least give them at least 45 minutes of it. Or if you want to join in with them as well to kind of represent the county, that might help as well.
And I'll create a check right up.
Yeah, okay, very good. So,
Maryland's good enough first.
Do you want to do our presentation first on it?
oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
We got 5 minutes of our own presentation. I just was looking at the time, but we wanted to. Thank you. So sorry.
Just to bring people up to date on the issues, we've been working since April of this year with the Department of Economic Opportunity, DEO, on topics. We've worked with Daniel and his team. So here are just some of the things, Mike, you don't have to play the video, that we are concerned about. Basically, it's safety. We're worried about the driving by Prairie on the weekends is a nightmare as far as cars doing U-turns, illegally parking. They're parking in the red now. It's a crazy situation over there. We went from, I think, 1 to 2 food vendors to like 7 or 9 I've seen on the weekend since April when we started talking about this. We're also concerned about the food safety issues. People are standing over the food. There are propane tanks on the curb. There are no access for ADA. The grease on the streets and the sidewalk, I know for sure on Crenshaw and Marine is almost disgusting because it smells so bad.
Yeah.
The sidewalk is basically the color of the street being black. We see in one storm drain just the trash that's in there from the food vendors, trash and things, which, hello, that's an environmental issue. We're seeing that as well. So there are a lot of issues, you can keep going, Mike, that we have brought up to the DEO, and we don't know. Don't worry about it. So just so you know, we're working on your behalf. If you have any complaints, again, on the back of this, DEO and Daniel and company can let us know if this is still correct. But this is the information we got for our last meeting in August about what you all can do to complain, because we've been getting a lot of complaints from residents about the food trucks. There's nothing that we can do as a committee as much as what you can help us do by making the complaints. Okay, go. You don't have to do that. Go. So these are some of the problems: pedestrians not being able to get by the streets. We worked really hard with the Department of Public Works to get a red curb on the corner of Crenshaw and Marine. The person that chooses to do business there disregards that all the time. So just know that we got the red curb from Department of Public Works, but we're not really getting it enforced, or, it's lawless right there, quite honestly. They also have live entertainment now, which we brought up. Someone on a Sunday night, had a band or someone singing. Okay, next. Vehicles, again, the illegal driving, the illegal parking is really, I don't even like driving down Prairie on the nights when those food trucks are there, which are most nights, but specifically on Friday and Saturday, because it's so dangerous. We have, you can't see around the corner, you can't see around that food truck. We also, the same thing, you can go, I'm trying to be fast. Pedestrians, it's a hazard for the people crossing. This is the storm drain that is nice and dirty because of the trash. We have more trash, I don't know if y'all have noticed, but all on Marine, but also on Prairie and Manhattan Beach Boulevard, so we've been bringing that up. The grease, again, the smells are horrible. That sidewalk is the same color as the road, so we've complained about that. Open food, continually, you see open food all the time. People are standing over it. Same thing, open food. Sidewalks can't get through, ADA. Sometimes I see on Prairie, there could be 50 people in line waiting to get the food. I know y'all have seen it. Propane tanks continue. We brought that up since April. They continue to be on the sidewalk. Equipment on the street, food being cooked. I don't know if any of you guys eat there. I wouldn't, but you know, you have food cooked on the street, which doesn't seem very sanitary. So with all due respect, welcome to the Department of Economic Opportunity. Daniel, Felipe, Jessica, thank you. Don't mean to be negative, but we're just frustrated.
No, we get
I
it.
told you we would be friends.
Yeah, totally. We'll see after this. Is this, okay. All right, no, we got it. Yeah, that's it. Working. Okay. Okay, so thank you all for coming and giving us the opportunity to come and present to you again. I'm going to just apologize in advance. I have another engagement I have to go to, so I got to leave pretty soon, but my Felipe and Jessica will be here to answer questions. I'm going to go through a few things quick. What happened?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm trying to share it.
Oh, no worries. Oh, I get it.
Yeah. Did it break it?
No. I can't advance anymore, but. Okay, so let me start off. Well, okay, while we figure that out, let me just, I'll say a couple of things. So understand all those complaints, there's lots of issues, and I know that that is frustrating. As I think I've talked about before, it's really a joint effort across different departments in the county, and I think next time we'll make sure that we come and bring other departments too, because there's lots of different agencies. So food trucks, for instance, those are permitted by the Department of Public Health for food. So they have to have a food permit. So, you know, you had the question before, like, don't go to a food truck that doesn't have a permit, right? You want them to be permanent. Those are the ones that, you know, you get a health permit for that. You also get a business license. That's from our treasurer and tax collector. What we're going to talk about is sidewalk vending specifically. Department of Economic Opportunity, we don't cover the street vending necessarily. So stuff that's in the street, that's not really our jurisdiction. We're going to talk more about sidewalk vending. So I just wanted to clear that up a little bit. But we do a lot of outreach, and we go and talk to vendors of all types, street and sidewalk. And we work with all of the different departments on different issues that come up. So, you know, we saw those pictures of the storm drains that get really clogged up. That is not okay. We have teams that come out, and when we find that, we report that. And we actually have, in this area, I think reported twice, to have remediation services by Public Works who come out and do that, right? So that's the kind of thing that we do, where we come and assess things and see what's going on, and then might bring in the proper departments. So I just kind of wanted to start off the bat with that a little bit, but I know that there's lots of issues, and so we'll talk about a few things here. We're going to talk about our sidewalk vending ordinance, which doesn't necessarily apply to all of the things that you just talked about. A lot of that was in the street, which is a little bit different than our jurisdiction, but I did want to talk about it. So I came in April, and I know I talked about it, and this is a different timeline than what I initially talked about. So what I initially talked about was doing a lot of engagement over the summer and coming in September or October with the ordinance. That has shifted, and there's a few reasons for that. So this is the new timeline that I think we've shared with you all, this PowerPoint, or if not, we certainly will. Okay, we'll certainly make sure that you have it. So you can see here that there's engagement coming up at the end of kind of October and November, and then it's going to be brought to the board publicly in December. That's the ordinance. Now this is around sidewalk vending in unincorporated areas. That's what it covers. Sidewalk vending can be food or non-food. It's any kind of vending on the sidewalk of merchandise or food. There's different other licenses and permits you might need depending on what you're selling. So if you are selling food, you do need that health permit. And we want to bring this registration, basically what this sets up is a registration. We'll go over this in a little more detail. Actually, maybe I'll just go to that now. I think it's the next slide.
Does he mean fruit, those fruit vendors? Is that what
No,
you're
we're
talking
not.
Oh, there it goes. It was just.
No, the trailers that are cooking food in.
Yeah, it could be. It could be potentially different things, or even selling merchandise. But you can see there. So that's some of the ordinance content there. Requiring registration for all sidewalk vending operations. So that's any kind of vendor who sells things on the sidewalk would need to have a registration with us, with the county, with Department of Economic Opportunity.
Sir,
and so,
really quick clarification. Any food truck that
not food truck.
I understand there's a difference.
Yeah.
If someone else buying from a food truck is standing on a sidewalk to buy it, and then eating on the sidewalk next to that food truck. So where's the distinction?
The distinction is they're not selling on the sidewalk, they're selling in the street. I mean, you can buy something anywhere. You could buy it at any restaurant or grocery and eat it on the sidewalk. That doesn't So.
Makes sense.
No, I understand. I get it, and it is. It crosses so many different things. Yeah, and so there are regulations around that. So if the food truck is blocking the sidewalk, then that might fall into our jurisdictions or others. It depends. So there are rules around that where you can't be blocking sidewalks. So it.
Parked in the red.
So and that, no, you cannot be parked in the red. That's not us necessarily, but you're right that you can't be parked in the red, right? You can't be blocking things. So I just wanted to say that out front, though, that I know it's complicated. There's a lot of different things. We're going to talk a little about. There's things on the sidewalk. There's potentially vending in parks. There's different zones. There's residential versus commercial. So there's a lot of differences. And I know it's complicated, but there's a lot of different agencies. We can certainly be a point person, but there's other different agencies that have different jurisdictions and authorities depending on what it is we're talking about. So that's why I wanted to come and talk a little bit about that. On the sidewalk vending ordinance, yes, it is actually selling things on the sidewalk. It's the carts that get pushed around, it's setting up stands. Once we have this registration, once the ordinance goes forward, then there is that registration process where you have to be a registered vendor. If you are selling food, that means you have to have a health permit. Unless it is, as somebody mentioned, if it's just prepackaged food or potentially cut fruit, something that's not non-hazardous, basically, something that doesn't have to be cooked in order to be safe, then you don't necessarily need a permit. But for most types of food preparation and sale, you would need a health permit. Yeah, I see a question right away. And we'll have time for questions at the end.
Yeah,
but is it something really? Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, did you do that?
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Push it. It's okay. It's okay. Can we go back? Can we go back one? I still wanted to talk a little more about. So it's okay. Basically, what the ordinance will cover is.
There you go.
Thank you. So you can see that it reinforces some existing rules around like noise requirements, ADA compliance, where you can't be blocking the sidewalk. It creates rules around when you can be vending, depending on the certain areas that you're in. If it's a park, it's going to be from dawn until dusk. So it depends a little bit. There'll be kind of some time frames that are laid out, and then it tells you where. It's mostly like where and when. So you can't be, you have to be a certain distance away from driveways. You have to be a certain distance away from schools or from fire stations, that kind of thing. So that's all what is going to be in the ordinance. We will be doing engagement around this. We'll make sure that this group is aware of that as well. We're going to combine it with some engagement. We're going to talk later. Felipe is going to come up and talk about something called MICOs, which are micro enterprise home kitchen operations. Some of you may have heard of that. We've done some engagement around it. We're going to be doing more, though. It's actually something that just passed at the board recently. We're looking at doing that and allowing permits for essentially home kitchens that can be used to prepare food for sale. So Felipe is going to talk a bit more about that later, but it ties into it a little bit because you can also use it to supply food carts potentially. So we'll talk more about that later, but there's a few things that we're going to be doing broad engagement on both MICOs and the sidewalk vending ordinance. Okay. So let me see. So one thing we did was we did a fee study. This is one of the, not complications, I guess, but parts of the delays was around some of the fee study, which is when we do a registration, that costs us time and resources. We have to have staff that goes out and does the inspections and does the intake of forms and, gets people registered, right? And you have to make sure that they're in compliance. And so generally when you do that, there's a fee associated with that. And you have to do basically a cost analysis to figure out how much that is, right? And so we've been doing that, but things have shifted a little bit in LA County. Like, for instance, we want to try to match what LA City is doing, and they had done some different calculations around what those fees are, and so that's part of the reason that there needed to be a little more time to kind of figure out those costs. So there was that. It was also consideration of MICOs to a degree, which is new. And then another thing is pop-ups. You guys hadn't really been talking about pop-ups. It seems like food trucks are kind of a big part of the problem, but the pop-ups, like having those tents that are set up, potentially like a food truck or maybe not, those are something that we're really taking a hard look at now. There's been a lot of conversation around that because they don't fall into a neat category. It is sidewalk vending, but they don't have a pathway to actually be permitted, like to get a health permit for preparing food, unless they're doing it as a part of an event, like a farmer's market or something. You can do it there. But to actually set up on the sidewalk, there's not in state law. So a lot of what we're doing is we codify at the local level state law. So all of the sidewalk vending, that's from state law. It's SB 946, which is a few years ago. The food carts, which are called compact mobile food operations, that's also from a law from SB 972, which was just last year, actually. So it's a lot of these different state laws. MICOs is also a state law that we're codifying into local law. So the state law kind of sets a lot of the parameters. And right now there's not a mechanism, there's not a pathway for those pop-ups to be able to get that food permit unless they're attached to some kind of special event. But what we are looking at is being able to regulate and enforce those. What we want to do is create pathways so that people are permitted, are being in compliance, are making sure that they're not blocking sidewalks, that they are getting food permits, that they know how to handle food, that they get their food handler cards, making sure that you're producing that food safely. And so we want to make sure that we have those pathways for that. There's not that direct pathway for some of those pop-ups, so we're looking at different ways that we can regulate and enforce pop-ups that exist. There's a whole county task force right now actually kind of working on that. It is a little bit limited. State law, I think as I talked about last time, SB 946 that I mentioned, that kind of sets out sidewalk vending and the parameters around that, it decriminalized sidewalk vending. So I think we talked about this a little bit before, you might have heard that, but that was a state law that decriminalized it. So there's no criminal violations for doing it. There's no misdemeanors or felonies around it. There were fines, there were administrative fines that you can issue and levy. And then certain things can, if they're making food that is dangerous, that can be confiscated, certain equipment can be confiscated, but there's no criminal penalties. That's what the state law said, right? So we have to work within those parameters. So there are those administrative fines, there's things that you can potentially confiscate or you can have them move, those kinds of things. That's what's being looked at and trying to incorporate the pop-ups and whether we are able to directly address that somewhat in our sidewalk vending ordinance. That's just another kind of layer that is in there. So I wanted to say all that. The timeline is there, we'll share that. It shows that we're coming to the board officially in December. We'll be doing some community engagement over the next month and a half around it. You will definitely be notified about that so you can participate. There'll be some virtual meetings, there'll be some in person as well. We're working closely with the Department of Public Health around that and other agencies. I know I'm talking fast, I'm trying to get through before I have to go. I've got a few more minutes. But again, they're gonna be here. We're doing a lot right now where we're going, like I said, we go out and we do assessments and we respond to complaints and issues. So we have a team in-house, and then we also work with different consultant teams that kind of go out and try to address issues, right? And we're trying to bring people into compliance and address issues that come up and refer them to the right department. And so Jessica's going to talk a little bit more about that. I already mentioned about when we come out and we find like the storm drains cluttered or trash or something like that, and we have DPW come out and remediate that or provide other services potentially. Even if we might not have the specific authority to confiscate things or do a lot to control the situation, we bring in the departments that can do that. And so I'm going to pass it off to Jeff.
I have a real quick question.
Yeah.
Since you know some of these ordinances are already breached, and you still allow them, you're saying that they have to abide to, what's the sense? I mean, if you already know that this is all already being done, there's people that don't have licenses and everything else, why don't you shut them down?
So we don't have that authority right now. The sidewalk vending ordinance covers just sidewalk vending, and that's not actually in play yet. They can, so sometimes that does happen. So, it depends on how egregious things are, but there is that possible pathway. It really depends on what the violation is and what the remediation, what the remedies might be. It really varies.
We're talking about really having dark, I mean, it's getting real bad, and it doesn't seem there's nothing being done about it. It's just like, well,
long as they get registration, they can be out there and do what they want to do.
So the food trucks
do what they want to do.
These are pop-ups we're talking about, basically, the people who do the pop-ups,
Yeah.
at the table, they have a barbecue. It's the pop-ups that we're talking about. The trucks are one thing, but it's the pop-ups with the easy ups is basically, if you go down Prairie when you leave, you'll see a view right now.
So that is what we're trying to address.
Yeah.
We are, like I said, we are limited because of that state law and other reasons. And our role is to try to bring people in. We want people to be able to make a living and sell to people who want to buy a farm, but to do it safely, to not cause traffic problems, to not cause congestion, to not be blocking the sidewalk, right? That's our role, is to try to do that, to make sure that we are not causing these problems, but allowing them to be able to safely, prepare.
Now they have more rights than residents.
Yeah.
I mean,
realistically, we're paying the taxes for the government,
to make money.
and they're making money, and they're not being held liable for anything. And well, it's too bad the residents were working on it, whatever, and they're blatantly breaking the law. I mean, I don't get it.
Again, it's decriminalized, right? So it's not like blatantly breaking the law necessarily. There are.
Stop right there.
Yes.
If I was to go and put a table on the street and sit there doing whatever,
Sell fried rice.
that.
Yeah, make sure you get
That's
your
illegal, right?
Yes.
That's what they're doing.
They have a table, a pop-up, people, equipment
What's
on the
the
street.
difference?
It's illegal.
So on the street again.
How is this
on the street
happening?
is
Why
different
is
than
it
the
not being
sidewalk.
enforced? It's illegal activity. It has nothing to do with food preparation or anything. They have a table in the middle of the street.
It's a traffic
We got
violation.
live entertainment now on the
How
corner.
is this happening? That should not be decriminalized.
We used to have, real quick, please share what you have.
Urination all over the back of his house.
Please,
Sure.
That sounds bad.
Well,
Accidents that are occurring on.
I understand you're right, like, I don't think there's the representation that we need here for El Camino Village. Apologies, I understand that your focus is on sidewalks, and there's this gray area between sidewalks and streets. But, you know, there's often a lot of overlap.
Sure.
Right? Food trucks create, litter on the sidewalks lead out into the streets. So to like, I think to Kevin's point, like, one department just kind of passing off to another department. And as residents to hear that it's decriminalized at state level, so there's nothing that we have to. It's very disheartening. You wonder where what is the value of us being a resident coming here to continuously push it. I have a complaint to the public health department. I submitted it formally 2 months ago. I haven't heard anything. So I know that's not your fault specifically, but these are ongoing issues since the pandemic. The pandemic is over. None of us are wearing masks. Most of us are probably have our vaccines. So we can't hide behind that anymore. So this is something that we're talking about. I understand the need for, like, if it's permitted, okay, it's permitted. But there are pop-ups on the sidewalk that probably don't have permit. I doubt it. And then for sure there's one behind behind the property.
How many accidents have been on the Crenshaw and Marine?
Well, that on average is probably once or twice a month. And I think it's not a question of if, but when, like, someone that's a patron of one of the sidewalks vendors or street food trucks, like that accident is going to probably kill them.
Yeah. And it being in your place too?
There's no toilets, there's no security, there's nothing, it's just a food truck.
This property backs up to one of those major, pop-ups, whatever. And like I say, they use his backyard for the restroom. So is that legal?
No, that's
Seriously, I mean, where do you guys go with this?
So, yeah, I think.
Listen, I understand the frustrations. I know it's tough, and I'm sorry I don't have like answers to all of the you know. We have a role that we play, which is around trying to bring people into compliance around cyber offending, and I know that's frustrating because
Isn't there an agenda by a higher level that wants these people to be out there doing this?
Hotels, maybe?
Isn't that the agenda? And you guys are just kind of trying to facilitate this? Because it seems to be that's the way the laws are going.
Yeah.
You know, they don't seem to be in favor of the people that
us.
live in the location, the homeowners. No, bring in all these idiots so they can sell their crap on our street, turn our place into TJ. We don't want it.
The propane tanks on the sidewalk, is that your jurisdiction?
That's your fire department.
I mean,
ADA, is that your jurisdiction?
No, that's Department of Public Works, Sheriff's Office potentially, it usually goes with the
But
Department
see,
of
you
Public
blame the
Works.
sheriffs, but the sheriffs.
I'm not blaming anybody, I'm just telling you about like what the authority and control that we have.
Right.
We're the county, we work together on it, so I mean, I understand, and I'm here representing the county, I understand the frustration.
But you told the sheriffs to step down until the ordinance were done. You tell no issue.
I have not, I wish I had that kind of power, I cannot step down, I cannot tell the sheriff to step down.
That's
not something I can do.
It was told by Holly Mitchell to step down.
I don't know, I can't speak to that.
Wait, can I ask something too? We were at the CAC meeting,
Yes.
and you were there,
Yes.
Marilyn, mind you weren't there, but what Lieutenant Boteo mentioned with the red curve, I addressed in the meeting.
Right.
These trucks are coming on the red curve, and these are our boss records.
They haven't stopped.
And Lieutenant Boteo mentioned in that meeting that her team, traffic enforcement team, will work with DO's vending team to tackle it. So I don't think that information was shared earlier, but for those who come to the CAC meeting, you can assess safety concern to the Maryland Enforcement Division, and to that point, here's the thing, this is none of these three individuals' fault, it's a really tough
Then who do you go to?
situation.
Who do you go to, Laura?
But to Daniel's point, there are many departments that are working together. So something like Red Curve, if there are two trucks that's covering, that's parking enforcement division, that's the catch, right? So there are many ways that we talking to each other. Yes, so I told you at the CAC meeting, I was there, and I addressed that to Lieutenant Monteo, and she said in front of us here
Kevin, Jessica, and Felipe, Dapper, and the parking enforcement team will work with street vending team to address the food truck at Marine and Crenshaw. Our team is gonna work on that particular.
Let me say.
Great, but yeah, people still park in the red zone all the time.
Look, they need to work on it. They need to work on it.
Right, but listen, this is what came from you when you said to us, what you had to, no, listen. Okay, may I say something, please, just with that? This is the requirements that you have put out for people to remain in good terms with keeping their license, okay? This was sent by Holly Mitchell. Those who go to this website, and basically it gave all the requirements to stay within good standards. One is that you had to keep your area clean. You couldn't park in red zones. You cannot obstruct any type of flow of traffic, which is as a right-hand turn lane. My question is, okay, I'm a broker, real estate broker. So if they're saying, well, if it's the police needs to give them a ticket, okay? Great, so they give them a ticket. But I can also be in trouble by the Department of Real Estate because I have an obligation to maintain.
Yeah, you're talking about business licenses, I think?
Yeah.
So they can lose their license, that's
But
right.
you haven't issued any license.
They don't have a license.
No, if you're talking about food trucks and business licenses.
They don't have licenses.
So
I'm sorry, I thought you were asking about people who had licenses.
No, you have your issue, but those, in order for them, even if they had their license, if they have to keep a certain maintained level to maintain that, and if you're constantly parking in the red and you're constantly, causing impedance in traffic and everything else, which this says you cannot do to maintain, to keep your license, and they still allowed to do it.
So I think there's
Been
a
there
couple.
over a year, at least.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different pathways.
You guys were here the last meeting, correct?
I don't think you are.
In April?
Yeah.
I remember a sentence you said that we were gonna talk to the truck people, the catering truck and all that, about low loans. Remember that?
About loans?
Loans, opportunity, that's really basically your guys' job, opportunity to get loans so they can buy another truck. Okay?
Oh, yeah, it's hard.
These people are all right.
Yeah,
We don't
have to say anything.
We have to go down our yard, or I have to walk, or I see somebody in a wheelchair that has to go through the gas station all the way around, or somebody with a little kid, okay? See, you don't see that because you don't go out there.
So if we can go to the next slide.
Okay,
Because we do want to say that we understand a lot of these issues, and we are out here trying to address them. I mean, yes, we don't have the.
But where are you at now? It doesn't seem like we're at the same.
Well, she's gonna talk a bit about some of what we had done, okay?
So I personally have been on Camino corridor at least 4 or 5 times. Walked it, seen the issues, gone there 5 to 8 o'clock p.m., walked and talked to every single vendor, talked to the residents, talked to the business owners, literally going door to door. My team has done this. Our CPC advisors have done this. Our CPC partners, our community business organizations who are also very, very trusted in the street vending community and are trying to encourage vendors to elect for voluntary compliance. That's not going to work for everybody. And we've seen it not work in this corridor for a long time. So we've escalated things, right? We've gotten remediation services out. We've requested Public Works to accompany us. We've had DPH and TTC do interdepartmental walks. We've had notices of violation. The problem is that these vendors are not permittable. They cannot get permits, so there is no type of enforcement that exists without a formal ordinance that is coming in December. We have to have the ordinance.
This is illegal because you do not have a permit.
So it's illegal from a food perspective, right? The California Food Retail Code says you can't sell food without actually having a permittable process. So what they are allowed to do is confiscate food and issue administrative fines. It is not a criminal activity to set up a table on a sidewalk and sell things. It's not. It just isn't. That is what SB 946 states.
It's illegal to put a table on the street.
It's illegal to put it in the streets.
Yeah, they're all over the street.
Absolutely, and they're still doing it. So the activity of vending itself was decriminalized by SB 946. What it did do, agreed.
And what it did do is give local authorities the ability to create these laws and restrictions in favor of public safety, health, and wellness, which is exactly what the ordinance is being designed to do. It's to address the common issues that we're seeing in corridors and come with a stronger enforcement tactic than what exists now, right? So we're looking at other jurisdictions. There's places like City of Torrance, there is Santa Monica, there is, right? There's exactly, you don't see them there because they have local ordinances that have really strong enforcement components. So those are the types of things that we're working with our county council on to create an ordinance that is going to be in compliance with state law, right? Because we have to work within the limitations of that, but is also going to address the things that we're seeing happening over and over and over again that right now we don't have. I can't issue an administrative fine to somebody who's in non-compliance of just bending on the sidewalk. We can report them to DPH and have DPH issue a notice of violation, and they can come out, collect their food, and they're gonna pop right back up the next day, which is what's happening.
How about asking the sheriff to stop by and take your food every time they drive by?
The sheriff doesn't have the authority to do that, only
Well, give him the
DPH.
authority to do
So
it.
sheriff and DPH work together. Sheriff comes out because they have to protect the DPH individuals. We're working with the sheriff now to get them to come out with us. Because even though we don't have enforcement, we're seeing the same resistance that DPH is seeing, that other enforcement agencies are seeing. So we also need sheriff to come out with us. And it is helpful in some of the locations where we've gone, where we've seen the path of most resistance, to have them accompany us as well. And
So
our staff.
Jessica, are you just talking to the people on the sidewalk, or are you talking to the pop-ups as well?
We've actually been talking to everybody. Okay. So we have been talking to the pop-ups, we've been talking to the food trucks, and then we've been reporting the food trucks that are either without licenses, or especially the ones with licenses, which is actually even easier to regulate. We've been letting them know that we're gonna report you to TTC, TTC is gonna come out. They have Title VII. Title VII has a whole slew of laws that regulate what food trucks can do, how long they can stay in a spot, how often and how close to a restroom they need to be and other hand washing facilities. The fact that they actually aren't allowed to put out tables or chairs for their clientele, that is all on the books by TTC. So we've been reporting to TTC. But what they can do is issue a notice of violation, pull somebody's license, and that's the effect of it, which is why we have that work group. Treasurer and tax collector. They issue all business licenses in the unincorporated area. Yes.
You need them to have hand washing facilities for the customers, but they don't wash their hands.
I mean, they should be. That's a reportable. So who you would report that to would then be DPH, right? So what happens, exactly, that's why we've been trying to coordinate all of these departments, because before TTC is going out by themselves, they're not able to address every issue because they only have jurisdiction over these little parts, same as us. We're only gonna have jurisdiction over certain parts of sidewalk vending. We're still gonna need DPH to come out with us. We're still gonna need TTC to come out with us. We're still gonna need sheriffs to come out with us. That level of coordination has to happen to actually impact and have the sustainable effect of enforcement that we want to see. So that has been a lot of the work that we've been doing over the last 6 months. Yes.
And do you guys put together a task force with all those components?
We did put together a task force. So we have a bi-weekly work group meeting that we convene all of the different chief level people who are above me, but are chief level and above. But they come to this work group meeting to address these. So we have a listing of hotspots. We share. One of the things that we don't have right now is a case management system that everybody can be on. So that's one of the things that we are putting into our fee assessment study, right? Is DPH has one place to go. Public Works has another place to go. TTC has their licensing.
It's cluttered.
Exactly, it's cluttered. So how do we centralize, at least for the complaints? Yes, you can do business licensing from here until, TTC doesn't want to do it anymore, I guess. But they can continue to have those authorities. But at least from a complaints perspective, we need to centralize it. We need to all be able to see and report outcomes. So right now we're doing that manually, which is why we're putting them onto PowerPoint presentations. What we'd like to see is reports that can be publicly generated, similar to what you're getting from the Sheriff's Department every month, right? So that is all part of the fee assessment. How much does it cost us the software? Yeah.
So have you seen the operation we're talking about?
I have seen that operation.
Okay.
Yeah,
How
they
is that
basically
okay when
told me to
sidewalk
kick
is
rock.
blocked? They got a generator in the street on the other side of the truck. Which makes the lane narrow and unsafe, and if there's somebody parked where they park where it's not red, they move up and park in red all day. How do they get away with that? And you said if they have permits, they can be fined. Well, they have permits.
So that's where we've had notices of violations issued by TTC, but what we really need is the sheriff's support to come out with us so we can start having more regular enforcement.
So are you working with Patel on that?
She actually, yes, I met her at the last meeting. I've been working with someone in a special division that was actually working on the homelessness initiative, but she's much more in touch with this particular community, so I got her contact. They're actually doing something very interesting with illegal dumping in a different corridor where there is a potential pathway for different charges to be brought up. And so we're gonna see how that works in that corridor, and then we can potentially bring it into this corridor. We are starting to, yes, we want the sheriff to come out with us. We have.
That's not what I said. Are you saying you can't? You say you want them to, but they're not?
Oh, well, right now they are waiting to see our ordinance. So we shared a version of the draft ordinance with the higher ups in the sheriff's department. But they are doing a very interesting thing in the Lennox division, and Lennox is seeing similar issues. So we're seeing a lot of these issues recurring around different corridors.
That they can find, that they can sign them.
Sorry.
So, I had a question about the ordinance. I went to the county website to look for information on the ordinance back in July, and the information stated that the ordinance would be all rolled up and kind of in place by September 2023. Now you're saying December 2023. Do you foresee any more delays on that, or?
We're pretty close with the fee study, and I think that was probably the largest missing component was getting the cost of the fee. So that is very inclusive of not only our costs, but also the communication and coordination costs of other departments. So that has been an additional cost, yeah. So that has added to the delay. And then we'll talk about MICOS in just a minute about alternative pathways for potential micro enterprise home kitchens. But I do want to just let you all know that we've gone through some of the traditional pathways. This has really evidenced to the county that we needed a different task force just to deal with the pop-up, because we're still trying to work within creating an economic pathway for people who could get permitted carts and are interested in actually practicing vending in a compliant manner. But for a lot of the actors that are not interested in doing that and are less interested and less invested in getting some of those resources, what we're looking at right now with county council is how we can create a task force work group that can create other enforcement tactics for pop-up vendors specifically, because they are very, very nuanced and they don't quite fit into any particular box, which is big tough.
So basically you're saying the sidewalk vending ordinance we've been waiting for isn't really gonna address our problem, because we basically have a lot of pop-ups that are happening, so we've been waiting for this and it really isn't gonna address our total problem.
It will address it in part. So
But not for the pop-ups that are out there on the
they will still be illegal. So one of the nice things
They're very illegal now, nothing's happened.
They're not technically illegal because there's no ordinance.
Table on the street is illegal.
So, yeah, blocking public right of way is illegal,
A table on the street in traffic is illegal.
Yeah.
Ooh, why are they there?
It sounds like if we could just get the legislation like Torrance has, that would take care of our problems.
Just
How do we
copy.
start that?
So that's what the sidewalk vending ordinance that's coming in December is gonna be. The only problem is that, or the only item that I think we're trying to have a different type of enforcement tactic is on the pop-up vendors, right? So we're gonna make pop-up vending illegal because there's no permittable pathway. That will happen with the ordinance, and we can issue them fines and we can ask them to leave. But we've already tried and seen that happen in other jurisdictions where it's been uneven at best in terms of the effectiveness. So that's why we have this other alternative work group just to deal with pop-ups. So these are gonna be their own kind of classification. They're not fully defined as sidewalk vendors. but everyone else will be required to get a registration. Anyone that wouldn't qualify for a registration would be in non-compliance with the law.
It sounds like you're helping them.
We're trying to create, we are trying to create an economic pathway, for sure.
It sounds like you're helping, I mean, listen, I understand people need income, trust me, I understand that, you know.
Yeah.
But we're telling you that's not what we want in our neighborhood. And so we're asking you to move that somewhere else or get it out of our neighborhood. We want people to be able to do those things,
right?
But not here.
Right. So unfortunately, because state law doesn't allow us to prohibit it entirely.
In Torrance it does.
It doesn't prohibit it. It requires that it states that you cannot sell without the required licensing or permits for that jurisdiction, which is exactly what we're gonna make. Is you cannot sell anything in the unincorporated county as a sidewalk vendor without the actual registration complete. But we don't have that ordinance yet.
It won't matter if you get that compliance, they're not listening. We're just asking to not maybe help them get more cards, not help them.
Well, the carts are food code compliant carts, right? We're helping them become safe and still create and celebrate the diversity of the foods that they create in our community.
Are they paying taxes? All those food trucks that come in.
Sales taxes is absolutely part of something that any person who is licensed and does not require, all licenses, by the way, in the unincorporated area of the county do not request their social security number. They can request an ISIN, they can request an AISIN.
I'm gonna give you an example, the hometown share in Manhattan Beach. We have to have so many criteria when we sell food or drinks here. The health department is there Saturday and Sunday. Why can't they be down there and shut these people down? Because they're not following the health department criteria. I know we're there, you're a fundraiser for local food. Boy, are they down on us. All I'm trying to say is, they come down on us hard for fundraising. Why can't they come down on me and shut us down?
It's a rich neighborhood.
I mean, there's two machines here from Manhattan Beach, the health department is here coming, and then over here they get those numbers, but they're not out there. Why can't the health department come down and shut them down? That's all.
So that is something that we're looking at in terms of the enforcement and the costs and the fee assessment, is how do we ensure that we're covering like the referrals for all of these, right? Because right now we're asking them to come out with us all the time. And they are putting a pause.
I got a
They've been
picture from
putting
the chief saying not to cite them.
So they can't cite them. They cannot cite them. It is not illegal to vend on the sidewalk right now.
In Torrance it is.
If they are in the use, they do not have a permit or a city license. But we don't have an ordinance yet. That ordinance is not here until December. Then that would become illegal to do that.
If a food truck or a food cart,
Yes.
on the north side of Manhattan Beach Boulevard, street right out here, right across from Elgin College, to the east of the ditch.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a cart. A person, they deliver this cart in the back of a pickup truck, they set it up on the curb, partially blocking the sidewalk, set up their umbrella, set up their chair. Oh, that's legal? Or can, there's no, they're blocking it, no, listen to me. They're blocking the sidewalk, okay? There's no room to the north around it,
That
because
would
it's a wall.
be an ADA non-compliance, right? So we're both creating
Okay, that's an ADA non-compliance, okay?
And that
So,
is citable.
that's citable. So if I call the sheriff on that, they're gonna come out and
Hang on,
cite
you
you.
guys, we have a presenter here we want to
Yeah, please,
respect, so can you stop the side chatter and just respect?
So that would be so I would have to explain that to the sheriff when he comes to respond, wait for him, hey, there's an ADA citable event. Right.
They would have to come out and verify that that's a permit.
Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, and then
absolutely. I would
technically, yes,
probably have to wait there.
they could have they could
Okay,
issue
now-
a citation for that, but it would not be criminal violation.
I don't care if it's criminal or
Okay,
not, they're gonna
okay,
cite it, right?
okay.
The next.
That's technically true, but that is why we're asking them to get
Look,
centralized here so we can
Let me finish.
create the
Let
citation.
me finish. Why, on the corner of Crenshaw and Marine, where everybody's got hot about that corner, they set up tents and all this crap. That's the same thing, isn't it?
It is the same
Okay,
thing.
so maybe what we need to do as a community is call the sheriff, tell them this is an ADA citable event, and go write them up.
They-
I'm making thousands of
No,
dollars.
no, 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 yeah,
But we do want them to care about that though. That's exactly what we want them to do. We
keep
want,
them
we
from
want
getting a
to.
license in the future.
We want to start documenting, but centralizing that documentation so we can say, hey, this has been going on multiple times with this.
Right now, it's a free-for-all, and that's what everybody's upset about.
I know,
Give us
I hear it.
something that we
I
can
know.
fight them on, and we'll get rid of it.
Well, that's hearing what they're saying. All the numbers on the back of that sheet on the agenda. Start complaining, it is the only way that we are gonna get change, is if everyone starts using those phone numbers and calling, because the squeaky wheel has a better chance of getting oil.
I think you gotta call the sheriff with an 88 complaint, or get a lawyer, an 88 lawyer, and let him sue the county. Because that'll talk even more, because the county's not gonna want to pay out a lot of money.
So anyways, we're.
Can we go to the next
towards
one?
the end,
Sorry.
and I'm sorry, ours
I'm
was
so
supposed to
sorry,
be-
I know.
I mean, but anyways, I know if you want to continue, but when, we're at 8:30, I know Ara had some important information. When do you think we might be able to hear you hear what's happening, I know that you're new, we don't want to, and we appreciate you coming out, thank you. And I hope you don't take any offense of this, but you can see the frustration because it just seems like, it's not, there's a lot of fancy words being said, but there's no meat behind it, that we're gonna do this, we're the residents, we should have the say of what's in our neighborhood, not the vice versa. And you got a guy on the corner that's now having live band sessions,
So that would be a noise complaint,
Would
right?
you
And
call
there is a noise complaint.
They don't
So
come out.
That's exactly what we're trying to create is some, accountability and more visibility of those complaints, because right now, you're right, it's getting passed around from department to department. And
There you go.
we want to be able to enforce both the laws that are on the books, and then we want to reinforce them in the sidewalk vending ordinance, which is why we reference so many existing codes.
Have you gone through the multiple ordinances that we
Yes, we
sent you?
have, yes, we have. So what we wanna do is come back here with the engagement. We wanna share with you, we can't share exactly the verbatim, the language that's gonna be in the ordinance, but what we can share is what the regulations are gonna entail and what the, minimum requirements are gonna be
Okay, may I
for
ask
each of these.
one last question?
Yeah, of course.
When I was at the CAC meeting, they were saying that they're having lack of money.
Yeah.
Okay, lack of funds, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
So how's that gonna affect this?
Well, that's what we want in our speed study, right? The cost of coordination, because we're not gonna be able to enforce this by ourselves. Even with an ordinance, we can enforce the ordinance, but we can't enforce every code on the book without the support and coordination of other departments. So
It just sounds like there's just too many people involved.
I
They
know.
should-
But we're also not gonna change, like, the fact that TTC does business licenses and enforces Title VII. We're not gonna change.
You don't enforce what you put out.
So that is only for qualified business licenses that does not apply to non-permittable food, right? That's the problem with that, is that when that ordinance was written, they didn't consider street vendors, right?
It says street vendors on
When
it.
the licensing here, so this is not put out by our office, but I will say, these are.
I got it off of Holly Mitchell's food,
So all of these are like
You're ignoring the rest of your audience.
This is existing requirements for business licenses and items that can be licensed in the unincorporated area. There is a list on the TTC website of what those activities are, and street vending is not one of them. And that is why we need the ordinance to actually enforce that.
What was that 88?
The actual title for it, I don't have it off the top of my head, I have to get the
So
code,
we're
but I
gonna
can follow up
have
with that.
them
I'll put it on
update
the
our
card.
contact list, and we'll send it to you if you're on our email, so they can give us that phone number, I gave it to Felipe, and we'll send it out with updated numbers, so please look for your emails, put it on the Facebook, as well, the group if you're on there, so.
This will be very important, and let me just reiterate what Jessica was mentioning about 3 minutes ago. The community engagements will be our opportunity to provide your thoughts, what you're feeling for the ordinance. So we will definitely share and get the dates, where we're gonna be, and then you can learn more during the presentation, but you can also provide your feedback.
Can
As
we-
well as you can always call us and the number, that you're gonna verify is correct on the back of the sheet.
Can we ask that a meeting be here, since this is a hot spot area, and you're talking about hot spots, this is a hot spot.
I'm gonna
So
go
we're
on
gonna
it.
have the meeting here.
Sorry, just checking, if I remember correctly from the CAP meeting, we were gonna have one in-person meeting
Yeah,
per district, right?
yeah.
I think we were trying to have
And
two.
Yeah.
one in English,
Yeah.
one in Spanish.
So, Maryland, our policy staff have been,
For
talking with
vendors.
Jessica and Belinda on that.
To have
We
it
were-
here?
This is
We
city of
were
Los
talking
Angeles.
about more central
So it's for
locations,
vendors?
It's for
to be
city
mindful
of
of
Los
other people, but then the two locations is a
City
huge.
of Los Angeles.
So I'm sure our policy
That
staff
came
and
from
Belinda.
Margaret from
will
Holly
solidify
Mitchell's.
that.
And that's
We
true for the
wanna
city.
make sure it's accessible location for everyone.
Right.
And hope there, and we'll share it, so that everyone can attend, whoever's interested.
We appreciate it.
Okay.
Can we
Thank
get
you,
this
I
question?
appreciate that. I'll look at that. Okay, so really quickly, I'm not going to go into the slide, but it'll be included in the ones that you see. It just kind of highlights some of the upcoming enforcement information and some of the next steps that we're doing in that coordination. So we've already talked about that in the hotspot, but we're doing that across different areas of the county. You can go to the next slide.
I think we wanna hear his questions.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So for those of us that are here, that are, live in the community, and for those of us that are watching this over Zoom, keep in mind that for any of these community watch events that have been held, we've had representation from the community. We've had representation, thankfully and gracefully, from the departments in LA County, but we've never had any food truck vendors, tell their side of the story. I think that's interesting, and either they don't know or they don't care. I can't say which one. And then, well, we can only assume, but that is interesting. I don't know if the community has ever had any outreach, or too scared to, or if the department has ever invited them to come to tell their story. And that might help. Another option for the community is to put this into a proposition to have no food trucks in El Camino Village. I don't know how many complaints that would take, or how many signatures that would require from a county level, but it's something we could definitely work towards as a community.
So you're pushing it on us.
Right, it's like, if they don't care, we do, what's the likelihood that they would vote, or who would vote on that, against that? So, just something I wanted to throw out there, but thanks.
Could you guys consider them being in a laundry park, getting all the food vendors into one area? That would solve it.
That's what we've asked for that. We talked about that in April, put one of our, let's have them in the park. It's not that we don't, we don't mind it. If it was in the
Yeah, we're not
park,
trying
we
to-
could all come. It could be an evening, it could be a
Yeah,
community thing. It would be built in that they would have cleanup crews for
And
it.
bathrooms. Marilyn, what happened with that? What was
No,
that?
we asked, but I mean, it's just been
No.
our ongoing concern and
Why go where
question.
there's competition?
We've gotten no answers.
But there is a pathway that actually makes a lot of sense for the pop-up vendors, and one of the things that we're piloting and we want to expand is the community events model. So a community events model is a mechanism to allow pop-ups in certain areas, but it cannot, according to SB 946, you can't limit without, other alternative pathways in terms of health, safety, and wellness, and there's a pretty steep requirement on how you meet the definition of that.
But they're not safe now.
I agree, and that's why we need to regulate it, right? The important thing is creating the ordinance to regulate it. It needs to be regulated. It is asking for regulation. You are asking for regulation, and that is what we were trying to
But
deliver in December.
there is current ordinances that are stand, and why don't they use those until they get their own set? Why?
I just work for the county, I don't know. I am trying to also encourage departments to enforce that in a lot of ways,
Oh,
but
okay.
I will say, I'm sorry, I don't.
Yeah,
So
ours-
just quickly, just because I heard a comment saying, when you come to the community engagement meetings, make sure you want us to work with other departments. 'Cause that's, the ongoing thing, we wanna work with DPH, we wanna work with DPW, we wanna bring them out here when we go out and look at these areas and, check, and we still don't have the resources. So that's why we're doing the fee studies.
I don't think we don't want to, I think it's your department expertise to reach out to your other departments to have
Yeah,
a
well, this
solution.
is
It's really,
for us.
we're not in your
So
position.
we're already.
We want it, we do.
Right, but we're already doing that, but the ordinance will have specific details of what's actually going to be the enforceable aspect of it. So that's what I'm saying, just provide your feedback during these community.
Yeah, I think that'd be great to see that in like the organized structure of actually reading through the ordinance requirements when we come back with that presentation. Because again, like a lot of, I think what has happened is that it would be easier to enforce something when there's reference to it in one centralized ordinance, right? And have a lead department, which is fine. We can do that to coordinate that. But then we have to have the ordinance on the books that gives us the authority to start.
I asked if you multiple times is part correct. Why cannot you not do anything about it? He's basically giving everyone the finger.
Okay, Kevin, I think we need to wind them up. Thank you
Okay.
guys so much for coming.
Okay,
today.
I
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, when do you think we might be hearing a new, you're saying about, or we're
Oh,
supposed
the
to?
community engagement should start at the end of October. We'll get the information out.
Thank you, and we can have one here?
I think we're gonna look into it, we'll coordinate with.
We'll get Art and get them to have it here.
Right
Okay.
now, what is it? Our policy staff are working with, Olivia and Jessica to find the best location that's central to all the each district of LA County.
Yes.
Right, but you're looking at where the most, that your
This is the hotspot though, so
This is the hotspot,
one
so-
of the hotspots that's in SC2. SC2 has one of the largest unincorporated jurisdictional areas. So just like unprecedented to any other district in the county, you guys have more unincorporated land here that would have the impacts of the ordinance first and
Great, so
foremost.
if you could have it here, we would greatly appreciate it. We have a lot of senior residents. That would be really hard for them to travel, and it impacts, and they've been here a long time, so we don't have anyone to stand up for us. So if you guys could make the meeting here and do what you can, please, that'd be great.
We'll also have a virtual session where you can provide information.
Yeah, we'd like to be in person. Yeah, in person here would be great.
Yeah, it's very frustrating to see the
They
person
get it
constantly breaking the law.
Yeah.
And he just not, and it's unfortunately, none of us can see it.
Jessica,
totally agree.
in April, someone here posted the obvious, they presented, they said it's interesting on Crenshaw, and you walked it, on the east side, which is city of Gardena proper, there's no food truck.
That's because they pushed everyone to the other
Well,
side.
no, they have legislation.
Exactly, they were smart about getting it in early, and now we're catching up. And I know that it's been hard. And
Nothing's
it's
on
not-
the east
Thank you
side.
so much.
I know.
Yeah, we'd like to,
Yes, that's what we're talking about in December. December 12th, it'll come before the board, but we're gonna do the community engagement prior to that, so that's where we're still finalizing.
and how long will it take to be in?
So Jessica, Felipe, thank
Yeah, we
you.
can get the
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much.
One more plug, you'll have an opportunity for public comment when it's read at the Board of Supervisors for, adaptation.
So you're saying we should all go to that meeting?
I'm just putting it out there, the Board of Supervisors link online as well, you can provide your comment as well.
There's a link in the presentation on the ordinance slide of where it like outlines what's in the ordinance that will take you to the
Okay.
board agenda meeting where you can make public comments virtually, over the phone, or in person if you
Oh,
wanna
let's
go
do
to
that.
the meeting. And that'll be December 12th.
Can we put your presentation on our, email list so people can see
I
it?
did notice that there was a typo in one of them, and I would love to.
Yeah, send me a PDF, perfect. Send me a PDF.
Okay, I came up with the PDF version now, but I noticed there was a typo.
Yeah.
I
I get it.
Thank you so much. I have a.
Really appreciate it.
You guys
Yeah, please, Ara, please come up and talk.
Yeah, so, Kevin, thank you so much for mentioning the alcohol materials we gave away. That was back in February, and the numbers may have changed. I wanna ask Felipe and Jessica, are these numbers okay?
Oh, Ara, they're gonna get back to me.
Yeah.
Okay, it's gonna email me and we're gonna
So
distribute.
we wanna make sure that
This is
contact.
what you gave us at the beginning of.
Yeah.
And he did make it 2 months ago, and they still haven't responded back.
Great, so Ara,
Who hasn't responded back?
CPA.
That was a deep, well, maybe.
I have the email, thanks, in fact, I copied you on it.
Let me get your information out.
Okay.
So, there we go.
So Dino is the main, first point of contact for any street vending crew, so please make sure to add them in the communication, and that's gonna be helpful. Another thing is Jessica and Felipe, again, thank you so much for everything you presented right now.
Thank you so much. We're not really all that bad.
community engagement, getting feedback is really important. And I appreciate Felipe and Jessica because they're taking action to really get that.
Yes.
Arrange this virtual meeting and in-person meeting coming up. And lastly, I want to ask you, Felipe and Jessica, so the meeting that's coming up, I saw the signage, but will the meeting be publicized on Instagram, or like how will it be announced?
Great question. Yeah, we're going to look to all our teams, all our distribution lists to get that information out. It'll be on the DEO website, which should be in the back here as well. And you can get all the information there. We will also share it directly with this group, since we have the contacts, and you all can distribute it out. There will be in-person meetings, and then there'll also be virtual meetings as well.
Great.
Some in English, some in Spanish, some in other languages.
Gotcha. So really don't expect anything until.
December 12th, when it goes before the board, that's really when you're gonna start to see the biggest impact that's gonna happen. Because right now, it's like drips and drabs. We're like coming out and then coming back.
You can call in. So that Felipe and Jessica brought up a good point. The department will create a ordinance draft and will present to the board and they'll look at it, right? And after you call in, make sure you call at the right time for a right agenda item and provide your feedback. And that's where we examine what's in the ordinance, right? So make sure to check the agenda and call in, provide your input, and you can call in.
Agenda item.
So that'll get posted 3 days before. It's on that link on the presentation on the ordinance slide where it has like the fee study information and that. But we can add it to this listing as well.
Please.
Yeah.
We'll let you know if you're on our email
I'll
list.
just talk to you afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's a tip for you all. You only get about a minute to present. Everybody can call in. We'll get to everybody. So get your thoughts precise, write it down, clock yourself. Just because sometimes you get cut off, you get very passionate about the point you're trying to make, but you have the supervisor's ears, so you want to make it a clear, concise point of what you're trying to
Can we send our presentation?
Yes, very important.
Beforehand?
They won't,
With
I don't think they
visuals?
add attachments to agenda items, only public comment. Yeah, it's only.
Because visuals speak for itself.
Any key words that we should say?
Enforcement.
Okay, no, but seriously.
Funding
If I only
for
have
the
a minute, I
department
can
for
make sure that I make a
sufficient enforcement. That is what we need.
Is that for the sheriff?
Will our taxes
It will
be
be, well, it will be, that's what we're looking at in the fee study, right? What is the distribution between all the departments that we need? But like, what do we get as a lead, right? What do we get for taking all of these in and then redistributing them out and making sure people are doing what they need to do?
Can we come?
You can come to the meeting. They're public meetings. We have to have this at a public meeting because it is a law that's gonna be passed at the local level. It's at, what's the Hall of Ed, Kenneth Hall of Edmund, HOA address? HOA address?
500 West Temple Street.
500 West Temple Street. There you go.
Jessica, I don't, is that already accepted?
No, it's on it's like in the early slides where it says, I meant to put a pop-out window, but I didn't get a chance to do that. I'm sorry. Today was a rough day. But back one more. This is it. Board meeting agendas, LA County. That link will take you directly to the board website. You can sign up for the board newsletter and they will send out the agenda the week prior. So we have to file our board letter an entire week ahead of time with the ordinance. Then the ordinance is posted publicly so everyone can view it online. It has to be posted publicly by law. But before that, the community engagement is presentations where we are allowed to take excerpts of it, not direct language. And we're working with county council to finalize what that presentation looks like because they're very particular.
Attached to the ordinance, there'll probably be a report back on how we're performing that first year, and then subsequent, I think up to 5 years maybe, just depending on the nature of the language. But just know that you'll have access also to get that information, see how we're doing, see how many permits were issued, that sort of information.
Realistically, once we go on this, how long afterwards will these things actually go into effect?
They have a minimum of 30 days. If for some reason the board feels like we need to hold the effective date for longer, then they can do that and they can ask us to come back to another meeting. But 30 days tends to be from introduction to approval to effective.
the board have the right to review and deny or alter any of the requests?
They do, actually, yeah. They have, they can tell us, you need to take this whole ordinance back and come back in like a couple months. We don't like it.
That's why you can call in or attend and provide your feedback, and that becomes powerful.
I mean, it takes 5 votes to be able to pass or not pass, or
So
actually it takes the
this is not
majority
going
of votes.
away. It's not really basically going away until mid next year.
This
It's
is
mid
like,
next year, I mean, January. January is when we're hoping to have it effective.
is it just the 4 county supervisors that vote on it?
5.
Five?
Yeah, all 5. So Mitchell, Pond.
But only the
Uh,
city.
Holly, Mitchell, Parker.
Why would they allow it to pass or to not pass?
If they don't like the content of it, if there's like too much, if there's like discrepancies or holes in the actual legislation.
I know we got
I know, I'm so
we
sorry.
still have our, and thank you for being so patient. Yeah, so, thank you, Laura, for being so patient. Thank you for attending.
I know we're all tired and want to go home and sleep, so I'll be really quick. I passed flyers. So if some of you recall, we had a big job fair at Camino College last year, and we're doing something similar this year too. My colleague April Johnson, she has been leading the job fair. We're having one at LA Southwest College. It's gonna be on October 26th from 11 to 3 p.m. There will be hundreds of jobs and there will be over 60 employers. And so if you know anyone looking for a job, please feel free to share this with them. And not only a career job fair, it's also a transfer expo for community college students. So it will be a really exciting event. And another flyer I shared with you is on our budget town hall. So coming Monday, we will have town hall, which is virtual. There is a registration link, so please feel free to check out this Bitly website and register if you're interested. It's gonna be from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. And this will talk about not just second district's budget, but LA County budget overall. And we're having this because we want transparency. We want to hear what the community is interested in and whatnot, right? So for that engagement and feedback, we're having this coming Monday. So please make sure to check it out if you're interested. And also, I will be really quick and share a couple updates. I'm gonna look at my phone, so please bear with me. And last meeting, I believe I came with my colleague Tyler. He is serving that incorporated area, working on the policy, so really nice for him to join the team. And as we know, unhoused issue is a tricky topic in the LA County, right? Across LA County. And I'm glad that earlier inquiries on the park, it seems like Lieutenant Boteo will send host team and Parks Bureau. So I'm glad that that discussion has happened. But in regards to homelessness, I want to share that our office worked on this project called Pathway Home. And this is basically a single day project where we tackle like the hotspot by sending service providers like the host team, LASA staff, public works, if there's a cleanup that's required. And for the month of August, we focused on 2 areas. One was Lenox, and in Lenox, we were able to house over 50 people for the single day project. And the second site we worked for August is East Gardena. As you may have heard, West Rancho Dominguez, like around Redondo Beach, Alondra, there are so many RVs there, right? So we tackled that location after Lenox in August, and we were also able to house over 50 people, and we permanently dismantled 48 RVs. Now RVs, they can be recycled and go back to the community, right? But we made sure that they get dismantled, so we tackled 48. So yeah, those are some of the efforts that we're doing holistically. We have other areas that we're gonna focus on, but that's one project we have done. Yes, ma'am.
They dismantled RVs, where did the people go? Did they get homes?
Yes, yes. So there are nearby hotels that they work together to house these individuals. So it was really strategic, like one day project that they really tackled. And I appreciate the leaders because we did have food distribution on September 13th at City of Hawthorne Memorial Center. And I'm happy to share that around 1,200 meal boxes were distributed to the community. So that was really nice. And what else? Yeah, I think I think those are the main updates, and I appreciate everyone's patience. I know that, Felipe, Jessica, Daniel, they're working hard.
Yeah, well, we
They're-
appreciate you as well. I mean, it's good, but we know that we can count on you.
Thank you so much, and I'll be around too. If you have any questions, please let me know. And yeah, thank you everyone, and let's go home.